have been facing, especially, it's a challenge, especially when it comes to you guys, is where we see the same faces and the same influencers across all campaigns. It's like influencer A is a hair and makeup influencer. At the same time, she's doing alcohol and cocktails. She is also doing cars and everything. Why is that a thing right now? Because I do believe there's so many creators in very different sectors, but they're never really seen or picked out or given these opportunities, and these opportunities are given to the same people. So it's always the same people that we see everywhere, even on advertisements. So what really is the problem going on?
That's a fantastic question. And I also have a frustration with that. I think one of the main elements is the fact that different people who are in the decision-making process of these influencers have a very, let me say, limited mindset in terms of who can do certain campaigns. And I've been on the receiving end of it personally. So I also sometimes do influencer marketing where they're like, unless you have this many followers, we won't even consider you. So a lot of times people first look at follow count, and I understand why, but that's not the only thing. You could have someone, or micro-influencers sometimes have more engaged audiences than even people with bigger accounts or bigger followers. So number one, it's actually us as marketers to be open to seeing, do these people actually have engaged followers, not just numbers. And then secondly, taking a chance. You know, sometimes people get a bit lazy and they're like, oh, it worked with this person, so we're just going to go to them and it's okay. Like taking a chance and wanting to grow with an influencer, because you're right, there's so many creative, amazing influencers. And three, doing the work of actually curating and forming a list of different influencers instead of just copying what everybody else is doing. So I think it's a challenge to us as marketers to do more work, and then also to be open to trying, but also to manage the client. Because sometimes the client's like, no, I want this person.
I don't want that
person.
So
also talking to them why. Sometimes there's a lot of education that's needed. Explain to the client why you feel this person would be better than somebody else.
Awesome. And what would you say are some of the challenges you have faced so far in the industry? And because the focus of the show is women in business, so as a woman in the marketing industry, what are some of the challenges you have encountered? It's a heavy question.
It is a heavy question. Wow, there's a lot. So let me see how to frame this. I think one of the main challenges is actually actually it's a personal challenge of believing in myself and not doubting that I am capable. I find like when I see my male competitors or people who are in the industry, they're very like, yeah, I can do it, whether they can or not. Like it's just a very different mindset. But I find me as a woman and fellow other female entrepreneurs were like, unless I know 100% of how to do this job, I will not say yes. And so I'm learning to tell myself 50 is enough. Like even 50% is enough. Say yes, and you can learn on the job. You don't have to know everything. So one was really overcoming self-doubt from me. And then two, I guess as a woman, there's certain maybe things that people assume you're just not going to be good at. So I found when I was, let me actually bring in my music side to this. So when maybe you're doing a show, when you're trying to advise in terms of a technical aspect of sound or talking to certain things that are maybe seen more as male, because you're doubted a bit. So it's about kind of almost enforcing and being like, no, I know what I'm saying. This is exactly what I want. And even in marketing, just learning how to navigate different people's opinions and views of women, to make sure that it doesn't matter what they think. You're here to do a job and you're competent.
True. True. Very true. Well said. And because at the end of the day, the goal is to have some money in your pockets. How do you make sure that you always have the competitive edge, that you're always the one who comes out on top, that at the end of the day, I'll get that client? How do you make sure you're always the one who comes first?
I think the first thing, or one of the things I've learned, is paying attention to the client. What are their needs? What problems do they have? You know, how can I communicate to them? So I do, yes, I look at what the competitor is doing, but I look very strongly at the person I'm trying to target. Because if I can speak to their need or to their problem and show them how I can solve that problem, and then that I'm empathetic, because as I said, we're working with people, I tend to end up getting the client.